Joseph Santonito, history teacher, and we want to see if he knows the laws of supply and demand.
Is there a specific part of supply and demand I'm supposed to be answering, or just the basic principles of
Supply and demand is only supply and demand.
Okay, so the basic principles, as far as I understand them, would be that when there is demand by consumers, the supply will be met by manufacturers. And then it has to go price part of it too, wages, prices, or just the supply and demand part.
What are the effects of supply and demand on prices?
So when there is demand for products, prices generally go up until the market is saturated. Once the market is saturated, generally speaking, demand starts to drop, and as demand starts to drop, prices generally start to drop as well.
That is correct.
I'm here with Duke commit Nick Corrales. I'm going to ask him some questions about the purpose of taxes. What do you know about the purpose of taxes?
Well, the purpose of taxes is to primarily raise money for government expenditures.
Well,
I
don't think you could have said it any better. Thank you again for coming.
Trash. We're with Mr. Tarosian, also known as Mr. T. Know anything about opportunity costs, sir?
I know a plethora about an opportunity cost, but I also want to say that I'm honored that these gentlemen asked me to talk about an important subject in our economy. So my understanding of the opportunity cost is this. So if I am a very rich businessman and I have the opportunity, I throw my cheddar around, if I have the opportunity to either invest in securities or invest in technology for my company, I'm giving up profit if I choose one or the other. And that's what I understand with an opportunity cost. Like, yes, the technology to invest in my company would create profit, as would long-term investment in securities. But by giving up one, that is a ginormous opportunity cost, and that is my understanding, and I hope this is fine.
Here with Mr. Amaral, trying to see if he knows anything about mercantilism.
You can eat something if you want there.
What do you know about mercantilism?
Well, mercantilism is a economic belief system that was around in the 1600s, 1700s, and basically the European countries who practiced it thought that there was a finite amount of money in the world, and so their goal was to get money at the expense of other countries. So they would try to import more than or try to export more than they would import in order to try to take money away from other countries and put more in their banks.
Are there any modern day examples of mercantilism worldwide?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you think mercantilism or free trade is better?
I think I would go with free trade on that one. I think that mercantilism has been proven to be not necessarily true, because there isn't a finite amount of money in the world, so I think free trade would have the upper hand.
We're here with Mr. Conklin, the head history director of Arlington High School, and we're here to see if he knows anything about economics. So, Mr. Conklin,
Yes,
do you know what inflation is?
I do know what inflation is.
What is it?
It's when the prices of goods go up because of something related to an example of inflation is when the prices of goods go up.
We asked for the definition.
It's an impact on the prices of goods where they increase. Often has to do with the value of the currency that is tied to the prices of goods. So usually if the supply of the currency goes up, it leads to inflation. It means that the currency is worth less, so therefore it takes more currency to buy the same amount of goods.
So do you think inflation is a big part of our economy?
It's a huge part of our economy.
Why is that?
It has a huge effect on Americans and people around the world and their everyday life. Everybody learns about inflation. I think everybody sees that picture during World War II or during the Weimar Republic when kids were like stacking piles of money in Germany because of inflation, because money was basically worthless because Germany had just printed tons of money. So yeah, inflation, it's good stuff.
Alright, we're here with the smaller version of Isaiah Thomas. Ask him about elasticity.
Okay, what about it?
Do you know what it is? I'm betting you don't.
The change of prices over time.
No. Definition of elasticity is the supply measured as the ratio of proportionate change in the quantity supplied to a proportional change in price.
Nice.
Alright, I'm here with Mark Newell, AHS Basketball All-Star. Do you know anything about progressive taxes?
I know a little, not gonna lie. It's the taxes. You gotta pay them annually.
Yeah, well,
They
specifically progressive taxes.
they increase over years. Depending how much money you're making annually.
Yeah, that's actually pretty close. Progressive taxes is a tax that imposes a lower rate on low-income earners compared to those who earn higher incomes, like me.
Oh, that's nice.
Alright, I'm here with Drew Niles, Harvard rowing commit, someone who took Syracuse economics, I think, right? So he should know a lot. How do you feel about the possible trade war that could go on with Trump and his tariffs that he set, and how China's devaluing their currency?
Well, Sam, it's interesting you brought that up because I'm very concerned about this trade war. It could have detrimental effects to our economy.
Why do you think that?
Because if Trump places tariffs on China, the currency gets devalued. China might place tariffs on us. We rely on China for a lot of the production of our products.
Yeah, that's a very sophisticated and intelligent view.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Mr. Lamro, gym teacher at Arlington High School. I'm assuming you know a lot about investing, that you have a wife and a kid, so you want to save for retirement. So, how do you know about how to invest, when to buy or sell stocks?
I'm pretty sure that's why I got in the business of physical education. I don't know much about that. All I know is you buy low, sell high.
Yeah, that's basic. You should probably know a little bit more if you're gonna be set for retirement.
Probably.
But that is a basic principle that you want to buy low and sell high, so you can save your money. And you know what account you would save your money in?
401k?
Yeah.
All right, look at that.
All right. I wonder how you got that answer right.
Pulled it out of nowhere.
Thank you for coming on to our show.
We're with the Cole Fanning, little Econ specialist. We're here to ask him what the difference is between a regressive tax and a proportional tax.
Thank you for asking, because it's a pleasure to be here. Congrats on the Super 8 win last year, by the way.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, a regressive tax is a tax imposed in such manner that the tax rate decreases as the amount subject to taxation increases, whereas a proportional tax is imposed that the tax rate is fixed with no change.
That's spot on.
Thanks.
Sounds like you read it off on our.
You're with Calvin Robertson, economist. As we all know, there's two types of inflation. Would you care to enlighten us about demand pull?
Demand pull is relating to or denoting inflation caused by an excess of demand over supply.
We're here with honors economist Max Henry.
Woo! Yeah.
As we all know, there's two types of inflation. Would you care to tell us about cost push?
Well, cost push inflation is inflation caused by an increase in prices of inputs like labor, raw materials, etc. The increased price of the factors of production leads to a decreased supply of these goods.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
We're here with Abby.
I want to look at the esports stats.
Would you like to tell us about the causes of recession?
Sure thing. Sometimes recession is caused by too much inflation. I know that sounds kind of weird. Why would the value of the dollar going down cause a recession? But sometimes it does happen. It happens because there's two types of recession. There's cost push recession and demand pull. Demand pull is when there's too much money going after too few goods. And that means that the prices of goods go up and up and up until eventually nobody can buy anything anymore, and that causes the economy to contract and then slow down, which makes it go into recession. There's also cost push, which happens often for things like strikes. If people go on strike, then they force their pay up, then the company will probably just raise their prices more. This means that it goes in a sort of spiral, that people demand more pay, they get more pay, and then prices go up. And eventually the result is the same. You end up with people with the prices being too high and people not being able to buy anything.
That's amazing. We're here with Skylar Willis, 5-star wide receiver commit to Georgia. We're here to ask you a little about the FDIC. Do you have any idea what that is?
Isn't that like the Federal Food and Drug Administration or something like that?
Not quite. That's a good guess.
Oh, thanks.
To correct your very educated response, the FDIC was a federal program created after the Great Depression so that people's money in banks was insured up to $2,500.
Nice.
So even if there were a depression, you still get $2,500.
That's great to know.
And here with Ryan Davies. Would you like to tell us about the advantages and disadvantages of buying on credit?
An advantage with buying on credit is you don't have to carry around all the cash with you. It's a lot easier. But a disadvantage is if you don't pay your monthly fees, you get a credit card debt.
We're here with Joey Noonan. This kid's a wise buyer. Want to tell us how?
Sometimes when the winter is just coming down to close, I usually make it on down to my local Sears and pick up a nice coat for cheap.
Why is it cheap?
Because no one really wants a winter coat for the summer, you know?
Exactly. Perfect. Here with Miss Slade, all-star librarian.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us why you should set up a 401k when you get a job?
So when you don't have a job and you retire, you'll have money to live on.
Perfect. We're here with Annie Harris, 5-star power forward recruit. We're here to talk about the highest paying profession. What do you think that is?
Doctors, because they require a lot of training and everyone always needs a doctor.
Exactly. That's high demand for high skill.